Hello, Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point. This week on the program, we're going to be telling you about how insanity has descended upon the Kentucky Capitol. After what I'm about to show you things and tell you about stuff that you're going to be thinking, no way is this happening in a civilized society, let alone at the Kentucky Capitol building, but it is. In less than 2 days, after a transgender person murdered 6 different people at a Christian school, murdered 3 little children and 3 adults, we have the transgender crowd descend on the Kentucky Capitol building, and here's some pictures of what they were bringing with them. You see here a backpack where they got a picture of a gun like the one used to murder those people with the words "Defend Equality." Got a picture of this one person wearing a t-shirt that says "Trans Rights or Else," with a picture of a gun. Got a picture of a flyer that was there talking about a Trans Day of Vengeance. And then one of the people leading the protesters, here is a video that we caught of this person. They are literally dressed like a satanic priest leading the transgender crowd in protest of this. I've been working up at the Kentucky State Capitol building for 14 years. All kinds of people come up with different issues, often very passionate about their issue. I have never seen a group that showed such disrespect for the democratic process, for really safety concerns. Multiple of these people had to be let out in handcuffs by the state troopers because of this vast amount of disrespect and hatred. This is a group that keeps screaming tolerance, but when they don't get their way, they are literally the least tolerant group of any group I've ever seen in my 14 years at the Capitol building. They were protesting against Senate Bill 150. Let me tell you a little bit about what was in this bill. It said that you are not allowed to perform these child mutilation, gender-changing surgeries on children. We've seen where a lot of schools will be doing this without even the parents' knowledge. You send little Joey to school and he comes back as little Janie. It would also stop them from giving these puberty-blocking drugs to children, which was artificially using drugs to stop their bodies from naturally developing. It would stop schools from pushing this indoctrination into changing your gender and changing your pronouns. It would protect teachers from having to use pronouns for a kid that actually are not what that kid is. It basically makes your teachers don't have to lie to the kid. It also protects our teachers against Kentucky Department of Education policy, which told them to hide these things from parents. And now they're protected where they don't have to do this. It also protects our students, where the girls don't have to go into the shower room or the locker room and undress where there are boys there, and keep the different genders out of the bathroom that doesn't belong to them. So this is a great student protection bill, a parents' rights bill, a teachers' rights bill. Does some wonderful things. And they passed this into law. The governor vetoed it. But here on Wednesday of this week, the legislature overrode that veto. The transgender crowd went crazy because they want to say that you can actually be the opposite of what you really are. That would be what's called lying, saying you're something that you really are not. One of our state senators is Mr. Donald Douglas. He's been a doctor for 41 years. He spoke during this day and he said, listen, your chromosomes determine your gender, not your opinion. And he went on to say it doesn't matter how many surgeries you have, how many drugs that you take, it still does not change the biological fact of your chromosomes that you are either male or female. I don't want to hear one single word out of Andy Bashir or any of these other woke radical leftists talking to us about denying the science, because every scientific test you can possibly run will tell you if somebody is male or female. They can be living, sick, or dead, and the test will tell you. Gender is a matter of biology, not opinion. We had another one of our state representatives that were speaking at this event where they were overriding the veto of the governor. This is the event that the transgender crowd was trying to disrupt. One of the state representatives that was standing up for what's right was Representative Josh Calloway. And he was pushing back against the Kentucky Department of Education chairman, a guy by the name of Jason Glass, who is trying to make where the schools can do these surgeries and give these drugs and tell kids to change their genders. Well, Representative Calloway, he had some strong words for that. He said, listen, our children do not belong to the government. Our children do not belong to their schools. Our children belong to our parents. So good for Representative Calloway for his straightforward, honest declaration of who actually is in charge of what. The Kentucky Department of Education chairman, Jason Glass, has gone crazy on saying that they're going to try to change what these kids are into something that they're not. So much so has this guy gone insane that there were resolutions this week, both in the Kentucky Senate and House of Representatives, demanding that the Kentucky Department of Education remove this guy from his job immediately. So we'll see if that happens. Let me tell you one of the things that the schools are doing. They sent multiple school buses and sent them to the Capitol using taxpayer funding for buying the gas and the equipment, took kids out of school to ship them up to the Capitol to be with the drag queens to protest against the law that would block these transgender mutilations on children. I think isn't this incredibly illegal to take kids out of school using state tax money to protest against a particular bill. I think that our Attorney General and our Kentucky State Auditor, they're both running for governor. This would be excellent opportunities for you guys to stand up and push back when this woke left crowd is misusing state funds illegally. And if either one of them do it, we'll make sure to really highlight and show you what they're doing. So, of course, Andy Beshear vetoed this. He wants to be with the transgender crowd. Here's a picture of him with some of the transgender people he took here. I believe this picture was from last year. Same crowd that was up there today that he is aligning with. So he vetoed this law. The Republicans went into legislative session this week and overrode this veto. Of course, every single Democrat voted no, but every single Republican stood up, stood their ground, and voted to protect these kids and uphold this law. But there were a few exceptions. And I just want to show you the voting record. These are the Republicans who voted with the Democrats and the transgender crowd. They wanted to uphold this veto. Of course, the veto wound up getting overridden anyway, but these are the people who voted with the transgender crowd and the Democrats. In the Kentucky State Senate, you have State Senator Danny Carroll. He represents the counties of Ballard County, Carlisle, Livingston, Marshall, and McCracken counties. Then in the House of Representatives, we have Representative Kim Bantu, who represents part of Boone and Kenton counties. Representative Stephanie Dietz, who represents part of Kenton County. Representative Kimberly Mosier, who represents part of Kenton County. And Representative Killian Timoni, who represents part of Fayette and Jessamine counties. So these are the ones who sided with the Democrats and with Andy Beshear and tried to, they voted no on overriding this veto, but the veto was overridden. Now, if we're going to call people out for their voting records voting no, I also want to give some props about the people who stood up and stood their ground and were some of the key heroes in getting this legislation passed into law. First of all, from the Kentucky State Senate is Senator Max Wise. He's actually the primary sponsor of this bill. Then in the House of Representatives, we have other key leaders that got this done was Representative Shane Baker. We also have Representative Josh Calloway, Representative Stephanie Decker, and Representative Bill Wesley. So those are some of the key representatives and senators that stood up to make this bill happen. And then I showed you the pictures before of the Republicans who had voted against it. Now, I'm often asking the people of Kentucky, to contact your representatives and let them know that you be for or against whatever. I want to ask you to contact them again. Even though the vote has already been cast, These people just endured some of the most vicious, vile threatenings that I have ever seen in my 14 years up there. And you can be proud of what a lot of your representatives did, standing their ground, protecting the rights of Kentucky parents, Kentucky teachers, and protecting Kentucky students. And I think it'd be good if you simply contacted them and said, I appreciate what you just went through. We may not agree with everybody on everything, but I'm glad those who stood I'm proud of taking a stand for what they just did. Well, with that over, the legislative year is now over. So for the next few weeks on Patriot Point, we're going to be shifting our focus from the legislature over to the executive branch, because all of the executive branch offices are up for election in about a month and a half. So we're going to be looking in depth during the next month and a half at these different candidates for governor, for Secretary of State, Attorney General, Treasurer, Auditor, Commissioner of Agriculture. You're going to want to tune in for those programs so you can see about the different candidates. But before I'm done this week, I want to mention something that was talked about last week. On last week's program, I talked about some key bills that had gone on this year, and I show you who voted yes, who voted no, and some people who didn't vote at all. Something has been brought to my attention. There were two people I mentioned who did not vote at all on a particular issue, and they were both representatives, Representative Robert Duvall and Representative Kim King. Now, it is true. I looked in the record, double-checked. I told you that they did not vote at all, and that is true. What the record does not show is why they didn't vote. But I had someone in the Capitol who I trust very much contact me and said the reason that these people did not vote on that particular issue is that they were gone that day because of medical reasons. Mr. Duvall has his wife with some medical problems and he needed to be with her, and Representative King had some medical problems herself, and so she couldn't be there either. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, put that officially in the record, so there's no mistake about that. And if you have some kind of a medical condition or problem where you can't show up and vote that day, I believe the people would understand that. Let me tell you what I do not understand. I do not understand this comment from Representative Kim King. Notice what she said. Your propaganda peddling or ignorance, your choice, is despicable. Now, had Representative King simply commented, I wasn't there that day because I had a medical condition, I would understand that. I believe the people of her district could understand and could appreciate that. However, I want to notice some of the comments that some of the people responded back to this. I blotted out their names for privacy purposes. This is what it says. I think this platform, among other platforms, would provide an excellent opportunity for you to provide your viewpoints and reasoning and let the public, both within your constituency and otherwise, to fully decide if your course of action is correct. I can appreciate that position. Notice another commenter. They said, if that is so, why not make an argument explaining rather than sling insults? And here's one final one. I am one of your constituents, and I want to know why you vote the way you did or why you didn't vote. You never reply to me on social media or if I contact your office in Frankfurt. I would like an explanation for that also. Like other commenters have said, if you have something to say, why not clear the air on Patriot Point and let us know why you voted this way instead of slandering this channel? There were some other comments that were kind of nasty, so I don't want to put those on the air. So Representative King, if you can't make it because you had a medical problem, if you would simply explain that instead of slinging insults, I think you would find myself and the people of Kentucky far more understanding. I am not your enemy. Now, while I may not be perfect, I do make mistakes. But I hope you, the people of Kentucky, and those in the legislature will understand they are honest mistakes from somebody who's just trying to do the right thing and show the people what the records are. So that's what we have for you this week. Don't forget to tune in the next few weeks. We'll be talking about those candidates and the upcoming offices. You don't want to miss that. And until next week, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.